I remember one time we went to a White Sox game, and Shorty was ODing about the center fielder on the White Sox, and I was like, while I'm sitting here, it's crazy. Beginning, what I wanted to do is the bigger thing, right, and how we're all going to kind of be addressing is finding masculinity in the age of bullshit, because we talked in our episode last week about men's mental health. And we did talk a lot about like defending like your peace, defending mental health, and trying to rid out a lot of the negative things that are propagated by other men into the community, but even that other women believe too, because they also have been socialized to expect certain things from men that they probably don't even really fucking want. It's varied. So I started thinking about my relationship that I was in, finding boundaries and how I handled it while I was in college. Because I was like, I can't sit up here and tell y'all in any other way, shape, or form, like how I came about conclusions besides literally just going through it.
Right.
So when I was in college, this was, how long has it been? Like a year?
Yeah,
like a year.
You're not that old, huh?
I'm not that old, but I be forgetting and shit. So when I was in college, I was in a relationship that I had been in since high school, since my senior year of high school. It went up until my sophomore year of college. And I remember initially, right, being in that like first love, like one and done mindset where I'm like, all right, this my dog, and that's just kind of it, right? I'm now a firm believer in that, like, it's not that you shouldn't believe in that. I think that you should like be accepting and okay of the fact that it might not work out that way. And the reason why is because I feel like through growing through my relationship, there were certain shit that I would not have known, that I could not have known at the time, because none of those boundaries were set for me yet. Like, you go from being 18, a senior in high school, and being single and just kind of thinking like, oh, I have a crush on this girl, whatever, to actually having a relationship that lasted multiple years. And I feel like prior to getting to that relationship, you have no way of telling yourself.
You don't know.
You don't know how you're going to react to certain things. You don't know what standards, what boundaries you should set for yourself. And that first person kind of helps you define some of those boundaries. And that's why I think that like it should be okay, a thing or whatever. But I didn't see that at the time, because I'm like, senior in high school, this is my girl. I wanted to date her for a long time. So I was like, all right, cool. And I remember one of the things that I started thinking about was it was around like 2023. It was around the time I flew out to debate Michael Knowles. I remember I was making TikToks at the time, and I had just made a pretty viral TikTok where I talked about this Fresh and Fit clip where they were basically on a podcast, and there was this girl there, and she was like, oh, if I'm at a pool party in a bikini rolling up or whatever, and some dude slaps me on the ass, like, is that justified because I decided to sexualize myself, or is it like he just did some fuck shit? And the answer that was given, and the answer that a lot of men will say, which is why I'm talking about it, because it sounds intuitively correct, is, well, there are men out there like that. That's not the way it should be. But at the end of the day, we got to live in reality. There's some crazy men out there, so you got to protect yourself, and you can control how you're dressed. So don't dress that way. I seen a similar sentiment on the Joe Budden podcast recently, because Mark Lamont Hill was on it, and they were talking about Diddy and Cassie. And I think the conversation strayed into like the culpability of someone like Cassie. Like, the victim has some, obviously, like accountability or like in a situation, but like, what extent does that go? Is it productive to focus on Cassie's role, or is it productive to focus on like Diddy's role and XYZ? And through that, one of the things that ended up getting talked about was Mark brought up examples. Like, if you're wearing chains, like expensive jewelry at a part of town that you don't know, like that's the hood or whatever, at 3 o'clock in the morning by yourself, like, yeah, you're liable to get robbed, right? And you can have the conversation of like, yeah, you should have made a better choice to not wear your chains or whatever. But that's not the same thing as the fact that that person still robbed you. Right?
Exactly.
You can say that the world shouldn't be that way, whatever fuck you want to get to the world. But at the end of the day, the onus is on the person that robbed you, because there's so many things that are context dependent. What if you didn't know that that's a part of town that you're not supposed to be in?
Caveat of doom.
What if, like he brought up, you were young and inexperienced in this lifestyle and didn't know certain shit, and other people did, and they come and take advantage of you because of that? That gets into a whole relationship.
Yeah, also, I think it's context. It's context. You have to provide that greater context. People usually often jump onto immediately. Well, no, you shouldn't have been wearing that shit. But it's like,
Exactly.
For sure.
They
And
try to put that label on every single person. Oh, you should know. You should know. What if you just don't fucking know?
You just don't know. And you're on a very fine line with having a victim take accountability, because regardless, that abuse comes from, or not even like the accepting of that abuse, but that you're in that position because of your mental state, of that like what that person did to you. And I think you're on a fine line with someone being like, well, you should have thought about this before you came into I don't think they can really heal after like just blaming themselves, be like, man, this is my fault.
And
actually,
I'll also say, I feel like the conversation is a conversation that's only had in that regard because men control that narrative. And what I mean by that is that, like, if we're talking about a man who was sexually assaulted, I don't think that you'd find a lot of these people who pretend that they're men's rights activists or whatever, red pillars, that would dare bring up anything about the culpability of the man in that situation if they were a victim.
they'd never say, well, what were you wearing when you were? They would never say
to a
that
nigga.
to a man.
I
Never.
remember I brought up in that video as an example, I'm like, the dress code at the party that we're talking about is swimwear.
Yeah, it's
So
a
how
pool
is a
party.
woman sexualizing herself by wearing a bikini? That means that a nigga who's wearing swim trunks is sexualizing himself, right? And that means any woman could walk up to him and grab his dick, right? Like, no, you wouldn't think about it that way, right? So I feel like because the dynamic is that men have that paradigm where they're like, hey, most of the time men are the perpetrator of the violence or whatever, but a lot of you niggas don't want to believe that, it'll be like, well, what did the woman do? What did she?
We
it's like,
know that. And that's the thing. I think men know that.
Yeah.
We know who's doing most of the, like, we know.
you
that.
know it.
You know
and,
Y'all
and,
niggas
and,
gotta be real with yourself.
Be real with
and the
yourself,
reason why
bro.
the reason why we got into this is because, speaking from my personal thing, right? I remember at the time when I was making these videos, I didn't really have a roadmap for what masculinity looked like for me. AB was there obviously as my older brother, so I mean I had that nigga the reason why I play baseball. So I had certain things that I pulled from him, but like our dad wasn't like in our lives. So we were raised with our mom, and the only aspects I had to pull from masculinity was like him, my older brothers, y'all, when I went to school and stuff like that. So I didn't really, by the time I was college age, I knew how I felt about myself, but I didn't really know everything. And I still don't know everything, obviously. So I remember at the time when I was making the videos, I was like, I hate the fresh and fit niggas. They're objectively wrong about a billion things. I've watched people deep dive into like sources on these different matters, whatever. And I know that they're wrong. But I didn't know what the right answer was, nor what answer like fit for me. So there were certain insecurities that I had throughout my relationship that I didn't really have any tools to address. Like when it came to that conversation about what to wear. I am a very hands-off person, especially when it comes to that. I don't think there's ever been really a time in my relationship that I joked or even like said like, nah, you're not wearing that. Maybe like joke, because me and her would do this thing where like if one of us was looking really good, it's like, where the fuck you going? Like just in a lighthearted way, but like never genuinely controlling like what the fuck you wear, because I knew, at least to a certain extent, that I didn't really care about it, but I didn't have the tools to understand that. And the reason why I put in here like how we understand studies is because I feel like that's such a thing that is missing. And I don't think you can understand where I'm coming from unless you understand that part. And when I was looking in researching that video, it actually changed my perspective, because I started to realize like a study is not just something that someone in a lab coat handed down from an ivory tower and then you just hold it up and be like, this is how we're supposed to do everything. Right. No, what a study is very simply people who have resources gathering those resources to go ask people these questions and to run surveys and to conduct tests or whatever and everything to really figure out what the reality is. A lot of you niggas be saying, well, we just got to operate off reality. But you don't listen to the people whose job and expertise it is to go and make sure we ask these questions in a way that does not lead an answer the wrong way. We ask these questions in a way that gets genuine answers from people, and they studied on how to do that shit. And then they go do that, they bring the results back to you, and all of you ignore it. And I bring that up because I bring that up, and I'll put the screenshots in when I eventually make this into a broader video. There's been so many studies on sexual assault rates. We know the vast majority of the time the person who commits a sexual assault or rape or inter-partner violence is somebody that's like close to them, whether that's when it comes to men and women, whether that's your partner or whether that's your brother, your dad, your uncle, whatever. Most of the time, the men that are going to be committing these crimes are going to be in your immediate family. Those are the people you need to be worrying about first before you're worrying about what your girl's wearing around strangers.
Right.
Then when it looks at, when I found a study when it looks at instances of sexual assault and if they correlate to what clothing the victim had on, there is studies that will show you that, like, hey, the interpretation is different, as in men will see a woman with something with something like on that's like lewd or whatever, and men will assume they've actually studied this. Men will assume that that's like soliciting sex, like they actually are wearing that shit because they want to do some sexual action. And women, when asked in the same thing, were like they wanted to feel like accepted and positive about themselves in like a social setting, which you might be like, they capping, they just wearing that because they want to. But do you walk out the house every single day looking nice with the intention to have sex with somebody? Yeah. Like, you might go to a club or something and be like, if it happened, it happened. But you don't go to the grocery store dressed nice because you're only considering that you want a girl to like notice you. You just want to feel good about yourself.
And I think that's a part of exploring your masculinity in fashion and understanding that, like, bro, like, I'm not walking out the house every day like, damn, bro, who can I fuck on today? No, bro. Like, half the time I'm like,
when you like actually like start to think about this shit. Like, bro, we all bust fits on the pod. After this shit, we go home.
I go home.
Like, we go home and go to sleep. We don't think about it like that. So if you don't think about it like that, you shouldn't be assuming that women. So
that's that first thing. Go ahead.
I like that you brought that up about how it doesn't really fucking matter what women wear, because niggas are just weird ass niggas. They gonna do whatever the fuck they want to do, right? I seen this story and it pissed me off to my core. It said Florida man arrested after allegedly R-wording a woman who was injured in a car accident. Victim claims he took her to his home instead of the hospital, and he said, "Open your effing legs. You made me crash my car." Mind you, nigga was like,
that's just he's mentally ill. That nigga's mentally.
And like, you wanna know what's funny? That tracks on exactly what I was just about to bring up about like the psychology of people who will commit like sexual assault or rape. It's also known that they don't choose, because it's a crime of like of power and not sex in a sense. And what that means is that like these people choose their victims based on how vulnerable you look. That's why the clothing thing doesn't really matter, because it's actually more likely that women who are sexually assaulted or raped are wearing like full clothes, sweaters, something that makes them look like soft and approachable, because that's what the fuck these people are looking for. They're not looking for your body parts to be all out or whatever, and that means I'm gonna go. They're actually looking for people who look like they're not gonna fight back. And you just got into a car accident.
You're injured.
That makes sense. That's not like I seen the girl behind the steering wheel and she bad. No, that is you're injured, and this person felt in his sick ass mind that I could just take advantage of this person, and that's what they did. So when you say, what were you wearing? What was she wearing? The reality is you can't be that is saying, that's bullshit. It's your fault that this person looked at you and couldn't control themselves. And also, you're saying that men are fucking one-dimensional robots that look at people and can't control themselves. And that's indoctrinated from an early age, even through like dress codes when you're in school. A girl can't have her shoulder out because it's gonna distract the boy student.
Let me ask y'all a question.
That used to be some real nut
Let me ask y'all a question. Have you ever seen somebody's fucking shoulder and like, not a damn time. I can't learn no more, guys.
Dang, I remember it'd be like the whole like spaghetti strap.
And
I'm like, and I'm like,
bullshit.
yo, do we not understand how weird this is in 6th grade? Talk about shit like this? Like with your homeroom teacher or some shit like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, this is some weird shit, bro.
There was an instance when I was a sophomore in high school where like our science teacher was talking about like the dress code at the beginning of the year, and a lot of the girls were like creeped out because of like little comments that he'd make, and then he'd like come up to people throughout the year and kind of like be uncomfortably close to them, and like that's the behavior you need to watch out for, and that nigga is a teacher. There is nothing about what a little girl puts on before they go to school in the morning that makes that okay, understandable, or more justifiable. And that's not just saying the utopian, it shouldn't be this way. No, that means if it is this way, there are reasons for why it's this way that are not what the woman is wearing. And that's something that I did not understand fully until I took the time to research for that video. And that completely put at ease my mind. That made me forcefully shift my way of thinking to being like, okay, I have trust in my partner. I don't think my partner would do me bogus or disrespect me. I'm not going to tell her what she can and can't wear. And at the end of the day, if she does do me bogus and does respect me, she is a person, and she was going to do that fucking guard.
Exactly.
Niggas be think.
Go ahead.
Niggas be thinking that Fashion Nova like sundress was gonna stop her from cheating on you anyway. What are you talking about?
Like you're putting
If she was gonna do that shit, she was gonna do that.
Yes, you're putting restrictions and unnecessary restrictions on, and you're driving yourself insane trying to maintain those fucking like those expectations and those boundaries. When at the end of the day, if somebody's going to cheat on you, they about to find every way to sundown to do it that doesn't involve overtly going in your face, putting on no clothes and going somewhere and I feel like there's obviously nuances in that, right? Because like I remember you told me about a situation where it's like you and your partner had gotten into it, and one of the things was like, hey, I don't know if like we'll be together anymore, and I don't know if I want to be single XYZ. And then that same night, like you're going out with XYZ. That's a different like scenario, because you can have those conversations where it's like, all right, in this moment, I don't know if this is the best thing for you to do right now, because it also kind of like seems like it's a slight to me. That's a different situation than you being completely controlling over what this person's wearing, because out of that insecurity and of that fear that somebody's going to do something or someone's going to do wrong to them. Your girlfriend could go home and then their uncle could be the one who So it's like you're trying to fight against something that you're not even fighting against the right thing.
I have a question for you, and then after that I have a follow-up. So I believe that statement in itself of saying like, okay, yeah, you shouldn't wear this is based off insecurity. So a question for you is, because you said you never really kind of had to like you never really cared. Has there been a time in your relationship where your insecurity kind of came out and you were like, maybe you shouldn't do such and such? And like, did it cause discourse if it did happen?
Yeah. Thinking back, there were definitely like times I know that I was like insecure about certain stuff. Like I remember like I feel like I did a pretty good job of handling it, because I never like let it overtly come out. But I remember for a long time in my relationship, I would get kind of like, I'd feel a type of way about the way that she would talk about other people sometimes. Not even like, it wouldn't even always be like a real person. It'd be like characters or people. I remember one time we went to a White Sox game, and Shorty was ODing about the center fielder on the White Sox, and I was like, while I'm sitting here, it's crazy. Like while I'm sitting here, it's crazy. Yeah. But the lesson in that is not that like I didn't feel that type of way, or that you're wrong to feel that type of way. It was how I handled it and how it came out. I remember talking to her about it. I never like once was like, one of those things that I did tend to do sometimes is I tend to like wait on certain stuff because I didn't know how to like fully address it at the time. So I just wait on it until it bothered me, which is not a good thing. You should not do.
Hell no.
But in that moment, I never once had a time where I was like, oh, so you talking about this fuck nigga, and like crashed about it or whatever. I was just like, oh, okay. Like I'm not fucking with that. But like, yeah, and I remember eventually it did stop. But like that was one of those things where it was a learning curve because I wasn't sure about how to express that part. And I think that there is literally no problem. Now looking back at it, I think if I would have, while watching that game, been like, yeah, I don't like how you keep talking about, bro, it kind of makes me uncomfortable. If she would have, at the time, I was terrified of like her being angry, me losing a relationship, XYZ, so I didn't want to make a big stink about certain things. But I think at the end of the day, that's a boundary. And if I would have came out and been like, yo, that makes me uncomfortable, and she had a problem with that, well, then I can live with the outcome that happens after that.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I told you the reason why, and I told you in a productive sense. That's different than being like, you always talk about these fucking... See,
right.
That's the
now,
shit that
now you're going down
not
a rabbit
listening to
hole
each other.
of bullshit.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Okay, so I'm glad that you brought that up, because me and my shorty, when we first got together, I did not know that she was like a super mega The Weeknd fan.
Okay.
Like, so
On
like
some,
she
like,
knows
Celebrity
like
Crush shit?
Yeah, so like she knew the fucking his fucking mom was born like Ethiopia. Like,
Oh shit, I didn't even know that.
like she deep heavy into it. And like the way she was talking about him, it kind of like, it was like, it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. And I asked her, I'm like, yo, I know this is like your artist, and I don't want to like be that guy, but like, can you like chill down a little bit? And she did. And it's like, you just got to have that communication with your partner, bro.
The key thing that both of y'all said is like a big takeaway if anyone watching this, in the sense of when it comes to situations like this, you should make the environment safe and comfortable to even have these conversations. Don't act off based off insecurity.
Exactly.
Take the time, pause, think,
And I will
go about
say,
it.
this
Think
is
about the
not
right way
just,
to post
this is-
certain
and I will say, this is not just only a man problem, right? Because I feel like a lot of y'all get confused for when we take up for women, meaning that women are daffodils who do no wrong, and they're human beings, and that's the whole
Right.
purpose of it. I try to like de-essentialize shit. Like, I don't like speaking in broad terms, being like, well, men be, because like at the end of the day, you're gonna be thinking in that thought process when you're dealing with somebody who might not fit into that stereotype. So you're gonna make bad decisions. The thing is, there's a lot of women who aren't going to be ready for that either.
Nope.
There's a lot of women who you're going to try to have that conversation, that productive conversation, if you do get the tools to do that, and they won't be open to having that conversation because
down
they
right there.
also believe a lot of the fucking toxic mindsets that men believe about themselves. And the reaction to that, because a lot of y'all was like, oh, I can't wait till they experience. The reaction to that is not to go through that situation and be like, well, communication's meaningless now. The reaction to that is to believe something in principle, and if it does not work at a different time, try to apply it with a different human being where it could work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't then like live through that decision
Real
and that
shit. You said
bad
that
shit.
shit
And it's like,
beautiful.
oh, well, she wasn't like, oh, she wasn't listening to me. She wasn't negative, and women ain't gonna want to have that conversation. So then you just go through your entire life dating people who you don't even want to have a conversation with because you don't think their perspective matters. Like that's how you fuck yourself over, and then you will attract those people who are toxic, who fit into that women bad stereotype, and then you'll tell yourself you're justified, but you never gave an earnest shot, even if it doesn't work out. Because with me, it didn't fucking work out.
Right.
Also, what people don't realize is that's how like it can start. Like the relationship can start off good, but I think that's how you create a toxic relationship. Because now you're enforcing the dynamic of like, okay, there is no conversations. They're straight yelling based off insecurity, and that's how you make that
I
dynamic.
want to ask you, speaking of that insecurity and everything, I want to ask you like about, because I've been yapping and we just run out of fucking time. But I want to ask you about like how you juggled your situations in the past, or like something that you think that it's useful for people to take from it, in like a way that you applied yourself, either a mistake that you made or like a way that you see in the future, like, all right, yeah, I probably was like, or I could have handled this situation better, or I did this in a positive way that actually helped me.
Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about like a take that everyone says is if you have like big insecurities or big problems, you shouldn't be in a relationship. And I was thinking about that. I was like, like that does sound true on paper. But then when you kind of like actually look at life, I'm like, I don't know, because I feel like in a sense of like being in kind of like in my first real relationship, I feel like it's not only helped my insecurities, but also kind of worsened them, because it's like, it's literally in your face. Like there is no, because before you can't run from it. Because before I was in a relationship, like you don't have to think about it. You could just do whatever you want. There is no consequences to actually having those insecurities. But being in a relationship, like it's all in my face.
Especially
like,
with someone you actually love. You get a physical reaction to everything that happens in that relationship. Like you cannot just go to sleep without hearing from this person that you are actually in love with, because it fucks up your sleep, or it fucks up how you feel, your stomach, your brain, your heart, everything.
I remember when I got hit with the breakup of doom, bro. I couldn't eat for like 4 days.
Nigga,
like
when I told you,
it'd be like,
that first
man.
breakup, bro, it make you lose at least a good 20, 30.
Nick, I lost like 15 pounds like that first like 2 weeks.
Yeah, you be
Bro.
sitting there just in your shit.
It's almost damn near poetic, because it's poetic. I'm gonna tell y'all this, right? Because before they were in relationships for me, so like I got to like see their dynamics of like them first coming into love, and I wasn't in love. So like at the time they're telling me their perspectives on this shit, but I'm like, I'm not really hearing them. Like they're not eating after breakups. I'm like, damn, like why Matt so mad? Why JJ so sick? Nigga,
Tommy got sick.
I couldn't eat, bro. I remember I was going to the car sick.
As
nigga.
written.
As it was. As written. And that's the way it was. Like, I think one example is the whole, because I think a lot of people have experienced this when first talking to someone and starting to get to know them, is the response time in texting.
Yeah.
So like you can really like introduce someone and like you're not getting those fast reply backs and you're like,
Man,
why aren't you texting me?
And
That's
I like that you said that. For the men out there, bro, you have to be occupied with something in your life, bro.
You have
Because
to,
if you're not occupied or you don't
Man.
know what the fuck you're doing, bro, situations like that will fuck you up,
Tweak
bro.
you the fuck
Oh
out.
my
They will.
God.
I
bro.
think even in this, like going back to the original question about like the like Maya's question about like dating in general, that has made texting and social media culture and all that shit has made dating and shit like that 50 times harder.
Yeah.
You cannot be all up in your phone all day.
you can.
You're going to drive yourself
And that's what
insane.
I'm
And that's
gonna say.
probably where some of y'all hurt ass niggas in our comments be. Is like y'all drove yourself to a point
Yeah.
of insanity.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm gonna break with the popular media. Now I'm breaking the echo chamber, guys. I'm gonna push back a little bit on what you were saying because it's like that being occupied is very useful, right? But I also think that we have to remind ourselves that it's okay as niggas to still be going through it while you're occupied.
Yeah,
Because I
right.
remember,
Yeah.
because there's certain things that work cannot help you with. There's certain things that passion cannot help you with. And I remember even to this day, like I'll be texting somebody or talking to somebody, and I'll get that long ass like response time, and I don't handle it in the same way that I used to. Like I used to really be, especially when like my other relationship, I didn't really have many moments where we were going a long time without talking. But when those did happen, if there was like a hiccup, I'm like, oh shit.
no, what's going
Now it's more like a mental battle where I'd be like, oh shit, now you're dealing with this, you're doing this cool shit, you're in the public eye and everything or whatever, and it's still like you're still not just connecting in certain ways with certain people, and that'll cause a whole other thing, and now you have to manage that. But having that is okay because it's like, how else are you gonna feel? You can't turn your feelings off.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like a gym conversation.
Yeah.
It's like niggas will hear the whole keep yourself busy thing and that, et cetera, and then they'll take fucking 8 shifts at work like I used to do.
Okay,
Or they'll
I don't know.
fucking-
I don't know about that.
No, real shit.
But you know what it is?
Thank you for watching this long. If you haven't already, f***ing subscribe. What are you doing?
What is you doing?
What are you
bro?
doing? You think we just sitting here doing it for nothing?
You think you're gonna sit here and not
need
shit?
to
Like, hear this shit.
Click that I know you're not subscribed. Click it.
Cool.